Hey guys, Dusty Showers from LearnToTrapWildlife.com, and we are here with session 3. Again, not very exciting, but we have to go through this so that we can get to the fun stuff with actually dealing with the animals. I spent a short time in real estate, and real estate can be quite exciting, but one of the scariest things when you've gone through the whole process of marketing and telling the world that you're in real estate, and then comes a scary part when somebody says, okay, I'll hire you. Then you go, oh, wow, now what do? You freak out because somebody actually decided that they're going to hire you. I'm sure that wildlife trapping can be absolutely the same. So you tell the world that you're a trapper. Now what happens when somebody says, okay, why don't you trap this animal for me? So what I want to do is walk you through the process of when somebody calls you, what to say to them, and how to deal with it so that you can get the job. You can set the expectations, because that's very important that you set the expectations so the customer knows what you're going to do. And because the worst thing that can happen is when you're charging somebody $100 or $500 or whatever it is, because some trapping jobs will be $500 to $1,000. Some may even be more. I bat-proofed a high school for $25,000 a few years back. My average job is $400 to $500. So when you're saying that to somebody and you're expecting them to pay you up front, you want to make sure that the expectations are set. Also, so that you know what to expect going in, you should ask them a few questions. So I'm going to read a little bit of this verbatim. So bear with me as I read it, but I want to make sure that we fully understand everything. So let's say your phone rings, and or if somebody calls me, I say, hello, this is Dusty, may I help you? Now you might choose to do this with your company, so you can say, hello, creepy creatures, how may I help you? Whatever it is. I run a small business. It's 100% referral. So when people call me, I do get phone calls that are referred from the police department or 911. Those people have no idea who I am for the most part, but everyone else typically knows a little bit about me. And my charity is so intertwined with my identity that people typically they call me as opposed to calling a company, which is creepy creatures. So answer the phone however you want, but make sure that you are polite and friendly and inviting. So most customers will start off with, I need some help, or I have something in my attic, or so and so refer me to you. I'm hearing noises. I think I need you to come out and take care of it. I'll be happy to help. What kind of noises are you hearing, and when do you hear it? Those are the two most important questions that you can ask. Outside of where does somebody live, you want to make sure that they live within your area. So you hate to go through the whole spiel and then they say, well, I live in Louisiana, and you find out that they live an hour or 2 hours away from you. And in most places, you're not going to travel that far. I travel 45 minutes typically at the most. If it's a special exception, I'll travel about an hour, but I try to keep everything within 45 minutes. But the two most important questions, what noises are you hearing and when are you hearing it? That's going to narrow everything down. In that way, you can give them a price and also let them know what the expectations are. And I'm also going to, on a future session, I'll give you a general price sheet of what I charge, what I know some others approximately charge. And there's different variations. Sometimes, like if you're trapping raccoons, you can trap per animal. I've found, and I've done that for years, I've found it's easier just to say $350 flat. That's if you have 7 raccoons, that's if you have no raccoons. And here's the other thing too. I never promise that I'm going to catch any animals. And I put this in my phone call most of the time, that if you have raccoons in your attic, I'm not promising that I'm going to catch your raccoons. But what I do guarantee is when I'm done working here, you're not going to have any more problems with any animals, and I guarantee it for a year. Because sometimes the raccoons disappear, they get hit by a car, they move on. Or if you're using my super awesome product, Accent Plus, Accent Plus, you're not even catching any animals. So basically, you ask, what kind of noises are you hearing and when did you hear them? Customer says, I heard something big walking around at night. Well, it sounds like you have raccoons, and I can make sure that we get them out and seal up the opening for good. What I do is I come out, I do a 21-point inspection on the home. I want to make sure that I'm aware of any place that they're getting in or could get in. Of course, if there's other issues, I'll let you know as well. So sometimes you come out for a raccoon problem, but it turns out that they also have a rat problem or a wasp problem, something like that. So from there, and this is where you can choose to run your business how you want to. I'll apply X-Scent Plus. It's an apex predator scent. The animal smells it, believes that there's a larger predator in the attic, and they take their babies, if there are any, and they leave. An apex predator is somebody that's high on the scale. So coyotes, wolf, even fox can be up there, raccoon, mountain lion. This stuff is scary to any animal that smells it. The other thing is I'll set out a trap or traps for the animal, whatever it seems appropriate, and I'll ask you to check the trap each morning. But don't worry, I make it easy for you to see it from the ground. If there's something in it, you just call me or text me right away. And as long as you do that in the morning, I'll get out that same day to pick it up. From there, I'll mark the hole. All that means is I'll do something to the animal's entrance that will allow me to see if the animal has entered or exited. That's the most accurate way for me to tell for sure when an animal is gone. And I'm going to discuss marking a hole, but it's really just a way for you to tell if something's coming and going. You cannot go into an attic, take a look around, not see an animal, and then say, well, there's no more animals in there. That is so incredibly unreliable. The most reliable way to make sure an animal is gone is by marking the hole. And it could be as simple as taking a piece of plastic, stuffing it in the hole. If an animal's still living there, it's going to push it out. If it goes 3 to 5 days and it hasn't been touched, then there's no more animal and it's safe to seal up. Because what you don't want to do is seal up an animal inside, because then you have massive problems. So after we're sure there's no more animals, I'll seal up the openings with a 1-year warranty. Are you available between 3 and 5 today? Like we said the other day, this is typically urgent work. People want to get it done right away, and if they can't get you to do it right away, they're going to get somebody else to do it. So if you can get out that same day, great. If not, try to schedule it for the next day. I try to give a 2-hour window because you don't know how long you're going to be there, especially if you're getting into a situation where you've got raccoons in a chimney. That could take it can take 45 minutes or it could take 2 hours, depending on your experience, the size of the house, if the raccoons are going to help you out at all. So give it a window of at least 2 hours if you can, and then traffic, and you never really know. So that's a basic conversation, and some people will like to talk. They want to tell you everything, and after you've been in this for a while, you can really just get a few little tidbits of information, and you know exactly what's going on. But until you're learning, really take all the information they're giving you, because it can really help you. So here's a general cheat sheet about IDing problems over the phone. This isn't going to work 100% of the time, but it'll give you a very, very, very good idea of what's going on. And once you become experienced, I'm going to say it'll work 99% of the time. And the only difference is you might confuse, say, rats for raccoons, or there might be a possum up there. Possums in attics, it happens, but it's unusual. It's more common in the South, but it does happen. But you normally think the more common thing, which is raccoons. But somebody could say something is walking around at night. To them, it sounds like it's huge, so you assume that it's a raccoon when really it's a rat, and there happens to be a board that's teetering on something in the attic, and every time the rat steps on it, it knocks. So you think that it's a raccoon when it's really a rat. But really, if you hear the customers say these things, you can more or less figure out what it is. So scratching and chewing in an attic at night, the key is at night, it's almost always going to be rats. Rats can be active during the day, but it's typically an indication that there's a larger population. Not always true, but most of the time. And here in Tampa, I rarely catch any more than 3 to 5 rats in a house. Moving around, if the customer says that there's something moving around in the attic at night, that's typically going to be raccoons. Moving around or chewing in the attic during the day or early morning. Early morning is the biggest indicator there. Squirrels. Squirrels are rodents, rats are rodents, so they chew. In the South, if somebody says there's large holes dug under their house or against bushes, armadillos. Armadillos always dig against a structure. Groundhogs dig out in the open, and here in the South, gopher tortoises also dig out in the open. But armadillos are always up against a structure like a bush or a foundation. If there's a hole dug under a patio or a stoop, oftentimes, if not all the times, those are going to be skunks. That doesn't mean that another animal can't come and take that over, but skunks will go under a little bit and then under something like a cement stoop. Very common up north. We don't have them in the Tampa area, but up north I've dealt with hundreds, if not thousands of them. In the north, large holes in the yard, groundhogs, like I just mentioned. And the easy thing about groundhogs is you normally see them. Armadillos are out at night, so you don't often see them, so it can be harder to identify. And I don't know how much their territory probably doesn't overlap that much, but groundhogs you can see them during the day, so you normally know when you're having a groundhog problem. In the north, also, and we've had minor problems in the south, and I know I'm saying north and south a lot. My apologies, but we have scratching in the walls at night. Again, the key is at night. Mice, especially up north, in the winter time. They can't come into the house during the summer, but mice love to come in the winter. If there's something in the chimney, could be raccoons, but birds and squirrels will also fall down, and on occasion, chimney swifts are another animal or another bird that will nest on the inside. So flickers and starlings and sparrows, they'll all come down a chimney. Now, if it's a furnace in the north, oftentimes they'll come down through the furnace and be flying around the basement. Raccoons, and they get stuck. Squirrels also fall down, and we're going to discuss this more in those specific animals. But raccoons live in chimneys, so they go up and down. Birds and squirrels fall down; they can't get back out, with the exception of chimney swifts, so which will nest on the inside of the chimney, and they'll have babies in there. The solution is just let them grow up, and they'll fly away in a month or so. They're federally protected, so legally you can't touch them anyway. Once they fly away after a month or so, put a chimney cap on and no more problems. But the phone call will typically be somebody's hearing something in their attic. Oftentimes, chimney swifts are confused with bats. If somebody calls and says they have bats in their chimney, it's very likely that it's chimney swifts. It's possible that it's bats, but it's most likely chimney swifts. They have a very loud, sinister, screeching noise. Raccoons, you normally hear the babies or just something kind of moving around, but the babies are loud and they chatter and they purr and they whine. So knowing those things going in is going to make it a lot easier, because it might mean the difference of chasing a bird around a basement with a net as opposed to getting a mother with 5 baby raccoons out of the top of the chimney. So know what you're getting into before you get out there. It'll help with your scheduling as well. There'll be some exceptions, but it's a general idea. You may also be dealing with bats, yellow jackets, bees, wasps, cicada killers, carpenter bees, snakes, possums, beavers, or dead animal removal. But typically when people call with those things, they're going to know and they'll be able to tell you, that they have that kind of problem. Although cicada killers, which is a giant wasp, that harmless wasp, but people normally don't know what they are. They're just really scared of them. But again, we'll get into that later. So once you get a better idea under your belt, you'll know how long it takes to do something. And it's not necessarily the job that takes a long time to do, but it's listening to the customer. They might have a million questions. They might have to show you everything. So there's a lot of jobs that I can have done, and I can get to the house, have the job done in 10 minutes, but it's that time of dealing with the customer. And you got to make that customer feel like, number one, you're competent and you know what you're doing, but you also have to let them feel like they're heard, because there are situations that either change, or you may have evaluated it improperly, or God forbid you missed something, and you don't want to go in there all cocky and know it all and then find out that you screwed up somewhere. It can happen to the best. So stay humble. Really, I mean, you truly have to stay humble when you're in this profession. All right. I had mentioned before, you do the 21-point inspection. When you get to the house, take a look at everything, and you can have a form. It's a 21-point form: the eaves, the overhangs, the soffits, the attics, the screens, the vents, the windows, everything. And what that does is it gives you an opportunity to find other problems or to upsell or to add something on. So you might go out there for raccoon, but you see wasp nests all around the house. Well, that's an additional service that you can offer. Or there might be one place where raccoons getting in, but the squirrels are also chewing on the plumbing vents. So, or especially up north, you get the starlings and the sparrows that will nest in the dryer and the stove vents. So make sure that you take a look around. Don't just go out there and be focused on the only problem you were told about. Now, one last thing. I try to get paid up front for everything that I do. There are exceptions. I do have some commercial customers that it's just part of life that I'm going to be invoicing them. But when I'm dealing with a typical residential customer, the typical price, and there are exceptions, typical price is between $100 and maybe $500. Once it starts getting over $500, people really want to maybe put half down, and I'm okay with that. But the more that I can, when you start having a lot of customers doing that, then you have to track who owes you money. And it's not as simple as you finish the job and they have money there, because sometimes they're not there. They forget to leave a check. So then you have to leave them a bill. They might not pay you. So you have to call them. You have to mail them another thing. It gets awful complicated. So the more that you can set that expectation up front that payments due at time of service, the easier your life is going to be, especially if you're starting with just a one-man show. You want to keep your accounts receivables to the minimum. And but the key with that also is staying behind your work. So you want to make that person feel like you're going to be there when there are problems. And I basically have a no questions asked policy. Somebody just called me today. It's one of my good customers, and she's a friend. And I do her pest control, and she freaked out because there's a roach in her kitchen, and she's super about it, but she's freaked out about it and wants me to come out and take care of it. In my head, one roach in a kitchen, it's a fluke. There's not a ton of roaches living around there. It's an immaculate house. It's a fluke. I'm going to go out there, and there's most likely not any more roaches to kill. But I stand behind what I do. It's going to make her feel better for me coming out there. It's going to keep her a happy customer, which leads to referrals. So make sure that you stand behind your work, even if it doesn't seem like something that you have to follow up with. You want to make sure that you take good care of your customers. So that's session 3 of learning to trap wildlife. If you've got any questions, comments, concerns about this, just shoot me a message at dusty@dustyshowers.com, and or contact me whatever way is best for you. So make it a great day, and go out and build that business.